I have been having some extraordinarily powerful conversations behind the scenes, which I pretty much do every day. And I wanted to let you in on some of these deep and powerful, juicy, rich conversations. It would be very selfish of me if I kept it all to myself. I wanted to include you in this conversation and in case it resonates with you at all. And today I want to talk about identity and our self-identity and the really interesting journey that we go on around transformation around identity deaths and identity rebirths. As you're on the path of following your soul, your heart's wisdom, your body's wisdom, rising into that next level of heart, body, soul aligned wealth in your business, in your finances, and in your life. This truly is a path of transformation, of eternal change, and of growth. And as exciting and as wonderful as that is, because the results are exceptional, I have so many examples of clients making more money, landing new contracts, up leveling in their business, manifesting relationships, improving relationships, all these amazing things that most people would say they want. All of that is wonderful, except the thing that's really hard for us human beings is what we do with change and how we navigate through the unknown. This is deeply stressful as well, and can kick off a lot of survival fears. And this is what holds most people back: the immense discomfort of navigating through change and of being in the unknown, and how well you can hold yourself through that. It's something I've become quite masterful at, practicing and failing over and over again, and just learning to trust the process that can often feel really horrendous. This is why it's so important to be well supported through change, because it's really hard to do it on your own, if not impossible at times. So this conversation around identity is really interesting because there's all sorts of things that we identify with and we identify as. And as you are following your soul, following your heart, listening to your body, really learning to honor yourself, learning to receive, particularly on the path of money, manifestation, mastery, it takes you on a very transformational journey into your power, into who you truly are, coming home to yourself on a new level, which may be the first time anyone you've known has done this journey, or anyone in your family, or anyone in your networks or friendship circles. And that can be really scary because we are hardwired to want to belong, to want to be accepted, to want to be loved, to be received, absolutely terrified of any potential judgment or criticism or rejection or abandonment. And that can keep us stuck and stopping us moving forward. And yet change is the most natural thing. And this is what's so interesting. And this is what my wealthy wisdom within and my inner guidance is always sharing with me, that actual growth and change and evolution is the constant. Death is a guarantee. It's one of the few guarantees of life. And yet we fight it. We don't want to accept death. We don't want to accept the end of life. And so we go around buffering and pretending and avoiding. And it's so interesting to me because actually what I'm guided into is to embrace and be consciously with death each and every day. My own death and the death of everyone I care about, and to work with it really consciously and mindfully. And we will all die and we will all leave this body, and the body will go down back into the earth, and we'll go on some adventure, depending on what you believe in. But the thing that's super interesting as well is we are always being invited into little deaths and little rebirths each and every day if you choose to lean into that. Most people tend to just hold on and cling on and continue with life as usual and fight for survival. So most of us are going around clinging on, fighting for dear life, trying to keep things going, right? Rather than being with change or letting go. And I always think this is really interesting because when I look around at what most people are fighting for, I think, why are you fighting for that? That is something that's not serving you. that's actually hurting you or harming you. And we fight to hold on to things that are actually not even serving us. But we're so used to it. It's so our normal that we cling on for dear life. And actually, if we took a moment to really tune in and think about it, is that actually serving me? Is it actually feeding my life? Is that actually fueling me? Is that a life-giving experience, or is it a life-taking experience? And yet we'll continue just to keep going because that's our normal. And change is really, really scary. Now, I'm a huge advocate for leaving no stone unturned. So when we're talking about, problems or challenges or difficulties, we want to lean in and face it and do our best to resolve any issues. But the interesting thing for me is more around our identity within that. So who we are, who we think we are, and what we're clinging on for dear life to, because there's a whole other world. I've had so many identity shifts in my life. And every time I have, I've kind of found a new part of myself, which is immensely exciting and interesting, but then an old version kind of dies away. And then when I come up against that next transition point, it's so scary and sad and hard to let go of a version of myself. But what's so interesting is as we're aging or getting older, like that's happening all the time anyways. And I really saw this with mothering, that our children are constantly growing and evolving and changing. And just as you get used to one age and stage, they change again. And change really is the constant, and change is the thing that we can rely on, and yet we fight against it. It's like nature going through the seasons every year, right? We're in autumn right now in the UK, and then we go into winter, and then we go back into spring and go back to summer. So there's always these, like, we're going into a death cycle, and there's a rebirth cycle, and yet we fight it. We fight something that's the most natural thing of all. And so when we are really deeply listening to that inner guidance, so that wealthy wisdom within, it's going to be guiding you into change. It's going to be guiding you into the new, going to be leading you from where you are now into something else. And there is so much life in there. There is so much wealth in there and so many riches in there. And it wants to guide you into something far deeper, richer, greater, and more expanded version of yourself. And it's beautiful. But it does mean change, and it does mean letting go, and it does mean having kind of little mini deaths. And the way that I navigate this, because I fight myself each and every day I tap into my wealthy wisdom, my soul's guidance, what I'm being guided to step into next. And then my little small me, my little survival me that's clinging on for dear life. And I have a little fight with myself every day about it, a little battle. And I have to make a choice, and I actively choose to follow that inner guidance, that soul's wisdom, because it always leads me to greatness. It has never failed me yet. It's not necessarily the easiest path. The path is not the path of least resistance, that's for sure, but it always creates exceptional results. That survival part, right, that's wanting to cling on to the old identity or cling on to the old way, actually suffocates life. That part grips and controls and contracts and silences and squashes. It clings on. It squashes life. It suffocates life. And yet it keeps us in the normal, right? And it's something we understand, and we can get our head around. And that part is actually going to fight to the death, right? To keep things in place. So it's really, really interesting. That, I think, is the hardwiring, that survival part of our brain, and we're hardwired for that. And that's more likely the default that will kick in. And yet this new life, right, that's wanting to grow through you and for you, through your body, through your business, through your bank account, your being is guiding you through that process, is exceptional. And I think very intelligent. I was going to say genius. I actually think it's genius. I think it's very, very intelligent, but it's taking you into the unknown. And that is very, very scary. And so I have found ways to navigate that, to help to create more safety for that change, to help to navigate through that change with as much safety and security as possible. So you're not completely overwhelming yourself. It's really important that that process of change is held. And this is something that I've done over 20 years. And I'm guided to create space to support you to do that if you are ready for your identity shift, letting go of the old, welcoming in the new. Because when you want to step into that next level of wealth creation, wealth or business or lifestyle or whatever it is, you have to change. Who you are now and who you've been is not going to get you to where you want to go. There's a way of being that's got you to where you are now, and that's fine. You can keep doing the same thing, but you've got to ask yourself if that's working for you. Is that working? Some things are working, right? And that's cool. Some things aren't working. And there is a cost, and that's fine. But just eyes wide open, right? Eyes wide open. That's it. That's the main thing, is to be really in leadership of what you're doing, rather than unconsciously creating in your life, consciously creating in your life. Make a conscious choice so you can at least be empowered with everything that you're choosing. But if you want more, right? If there's something that you really want, you are going to have to change, and you are going to have to grow as a person. And that means becoming someone new. I think it's more you. I actually believe it's your more aligned, authentic self. I don't think it's actually changing anything. It's actually pulling back the layers of your more inauthentic self, right? Who you were trying to be or pretending to be, or who you're being in order to seek approval or, be liked, or whatever we do. All those patterns we learned at a very young age, what we needed to do to fit in, or to be loved, to be accepted, to be rewarded. We've got all these unconscious patterns running us all of the time. So with these identity shifts, what I see is actually dying off is false identity, false persona. And that served you for a while, and that was cool, and that was fine. And then it gets to a point where it's no longer serving you. It means letting go. So the death of the self, the death of the old, and the birth of the new, which I think is the more aligned, authentic version of you, that next level of who you are becoming. But in time, that part of you too will also die, and there'll be another version of you. It's like the Russian dolls pulling back, finding more and more and more. And on the soul's journey, this is part of knowing yourself, right? It's not wrong or bad. It's completely natural and normal to continue to grow and evolve and change. Children do it very naturally. And then we get to a place, the adulting, where we just kind of stop, or some people stop. But I don't think that's necessary. And I think that's why people get really, really tired. They start getting really, really old and really, really depleted. But actually, this path is the path of a life-giving energy, bringing you to life, coming to life, into life. But it does mean change. It does mean change. So, and it's a choice, and it's absolutely fine whichever way you choose. But I also want to kind of open up the doors to a possibility of how to create a beautiful, wealthy, abundant life, guided by your heart, body, and soul, and to support you with like these identity shifts, these constant death and rebirth cycles. It's something that I've really mastered because I've been through it so many times. I'm like really good at dying. I'm really good at being born. And in fact, I've been at quite a lot of births and a number of deaths. And I love being at deaths, and I actually love being at births. It's the most powerful, potent places to be. And I also love holding space for my clients to move through these cycles as well, because this is really where we come alive. But it's hard. It doesn't feel good. It feels hard, but it's actually where we're like actually most alive. And the benefit is actually you start to create more of the results that you want in your life. Maybe it's more money. Maybe it's greater intimacy, better sex life, greater health, more thriving business, more dream clients, et cetera, et cetera. That's like the results or the symptoms of this deeper and richer process. We got to go through that, what I like to call the pain portal to prosperity, being willing to die to be reborn. Sounds a little bit traumatic, but that is how it feels sometimes. And then you realize you're just kind of coming to life in life. And that's exceptionally exciting. Yes, there are things that you need to let go of, and that's sad. So I talk a lot about grieving and consciously grieving. As you consciously let go of the old versions of yourself or the old ways of doing things, life will take you through that anyways. But what I'd like to do is to be on the front foot, which means you're consciously in the game rather than just being bashed around by the ways of life. It's like get in the game and start understanding that life is here for you. And when you're in more the driver's seat of your life and you're less out of like in victim consciousness and life happening to you, you realize, oh my God, everything is happening for me on the soul level, right? The human level is maybe a little different experience. But when we drop in and listen and surrender, we're like, oh my God, there is the consciousness, there's an intelligence at play in this life. And pain is part of it. death is part of it, but pleasure is also part of it, and life is also part of it. And I found that when we can fully embrace both the shadow and the light, the death and the birth, the up and the down, the contrast, and accept that as part of life, oh my goodness, at least we can relax into life a little bit more. Stop fighting it. Stop fighting ourselves. Stop fighting what wants to happen. And this is how we grow and how we evolve. And from my point of view, I think it's time that we do grow and evolve and find some better ways of doing things. And that's why I'm working with the innovators, the creators, entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, and change makers who are here to create waves of change in this world. And I've got a very, very beautiful event coming up to support you with what you're trying to birth in and let go of. It is the Living Abundance Wealth Retreat, starting next week. I'm going to be taking you through my very powerful money manifestation mastery methodology, how to create wealth in every area of your life, guided by your heart, body, and soul. It's a very safe and supportive space to let go. That saying, let go, let God, really deeply surrender and to welcome in the new. And this is how we powerfully create, powerfully manifest. Is it easy? No, there is a place of ease. It is not comfortable, but we lean into the discomfort because the results that you want and desire are worth it, and they truly are. And it's absolutely beautiful to be held and supported and in connection with people who are walking this path with you. It can be very lonely. It can be hard being an entrepreneur or business owner or doing things that are slightly against the grain. It's really important that you are supported and have a network of people to do that with. And that's what I'm guided to create, is to bring us all together so we can walk this path. Our own, each and every one of us have our own unique path, but together, when you know you're held and received and loved and supported, I find it makes it much easier. So join us there. You can visit the link below. The Wealth Retreat starting next week, free online event. It's all going to be recorded as well. So if the time zones are going live at 12 p.m. UK time every day, but if that doesn't work with your time zones, there will be a replay, but you need to book your place to access it. Any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I hope to see you next week, sending you all my love. And I'd love to know what's popping for you in this conversation. So let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear. Speak to you soon.